All right, here we are, day 8 of the 27-day challenge. I am on a mission on the 5th year anniversary of me getting out of the hospital. From 27 days, I am on a mission to walk 27 miles on that day. And it was inspired by the fact that I realized that I was struggling one day on the 6th of July and realized it was the anniversary date of me being diagnosed with COVID. And then, 8 days later or something like that, I went into the hospital, ended up being admitted, and little did I know I was going to be in there for 27 days. And so that 27 days represents a hard season in my life. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but it also represents if I can do something amazing in 27 days, then I get to kind of redeem this season. And so I'm going hard after it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be successful. I already have been successful. I've walked 12.9 miles in a single walk. I've never done anything like that before, and I've taken myself to a next level and become a different person than I was before I started this. Today is day 8. Yesterday I had just a recovery walk. I went 3 miles today. My training plan had me going 6 miles. I wanted to do a 10K, so I ended up at 6.5 miles. And honestly, when I got out of bed this morning, I was excited to go for my walk. And I went through my routine. I made my coffee and I grabbed some protein. And as I sat there for about 35 minutes just in my morning mode, I just started feeling disconnected, feeling discouraged, and thinking, I do not want to take this walk. And it was really weird. I've been so motivated and inspired and stuff, and I didn't want to put my shoes on. I finally put the shoes on and got out there and began my walk. And it was about 4.5 miles into it that I had this moment like, wait a minute, something feels off today. I'm feeling good walking, but why did my brain go so negative? And I had a thought that maybe it was the anniversary date of when my lung collapsed. And that was definitely the darkest day of my life, the day that I really thought that I might not make it. I had signed documentation that if a procedure that they were going to do to put a tube into my chest didn't work, that they would be able to, they'd have permission to put me on a respirator. And after my walk, I went back home and looked at the journal that my wife made of that season in our journey. And sure enough, this was that anniversary date that my lung collapsed. And as I read through that journal today, I just broke down. There was a moment where I just wrote a message to my wife, and I can clearly say without a doubt that was me realizing that this might be my last message. I want to make sure that you know that I love you. And the way I wrote it, it was just very intentionally saying, I'll see you soon. And I think in my mind, I was thinking either on this side of heaven or on the other side of heaven. And there was an hour and 20 minutes gap between when I sent that message and when I sent the follow-up message after the procedure. And the chest tube worked, and it's what I was needing. And I simply sent a message back to my wife, done. And that, I remember her telling me what a breakdown moment that was for her, because at that point she didn't know if I was on a respirator, if I'd passed away. It was a really hard season. And like this whole thing started off, my body remembered something even though my head wasn't thinking, oh, this was when I tested positive for COVID. But today it was the day that my lung collapsed, and I could not gasp for air, and I couldn't feel content with my breath, and it was a horrible, horrible day. And they had to do some intervention that was painful, but it's what I needed to make it through. And obviously 5 years later, I'm doing fine, and I'm reclaiming it. And it is amazing that day I couldn't walk anywhere. Now I had a tube hanging out of my side that was helping me to be healthy. I might put the picture on here, but my face and my neck were all swollen because of all the air that went out of my lungs when it collapsed, because I still had liters of oxygen pouring into my lungs, and that didn't have any place to go, so it went into my bloodstream, and it was just a crazy, crazy season, and a lot of trauma in that. And I went to counseling and that type of thing afterwards. I guess I'm sharing all that today. The walk was important today. I got up, I got out there and did it, even though I was feeling off, and in the midst of it, had some realization of what it represented. But even beyond that, it just reminded me that you don't know the story people are living. someone who saw me on my deck this morning just weeping because I was reading that story and realizing that my wife wasn't sure if I was going to be around after that. My body remembered it. My emotions remembered it. And so when you're leading people, when you're working with people and they seem off, the assumption is often, oh, the guy's a jerk, or the guy just doesn't want to work with anyone. Maybe the guy has a story, and maybe he's living in a story, and maybe he doesn't even know it. Maybe it's the anniversary of losing a parent, or of a relationship that broke up, or of a diagnosis. I guess I would just appeal to you to the idea that we're all living a story. We all have hurt, and we're all doing the best we can on a given day. And we're going to have off days. And how can we know people well enough to know when they're off and support them when they need the support? So that's my encouragement to you. How do you just care for people and develop people and let them know you're there for them even on the hard days? So thanks for listening. Thanks for following along. I can do hard things. I'm proving that. I'm overcoming. You can do hard things. Let's be successful together.